Alright, so today is part one of building the bayonet. I about said bayonet. The bayonet knife for Mike from Boyer Bows. He had a challenge come out to where he would send out, I believe it was 12 bayonet blanks to various people, and then he would have them make videos on how they made whatever product out of those bayonet blanks. And this is the first video of what I'm going to make mine out of. And first, real quick, I'm going to show you my shop, what I work out of. Here's the fireplace. There's my little rinky-dink bench I made. There's where I chop wood. As you can see, most of it's burnt right now. Coat hanger. Here's my forge, which I had just cleaned out. It was clogged on me, so I cleaned it out. Here's my bucket of coal. I've got another sack of coal up at the house, but I probably won't need it for a while. My chimney, made out of an old column cover. On this side, I built onto the building probably a few weeks ago. On this side, I have my table full of bow staves. This is where I work on bows and things. And then there's one of my railroad track anvils. And there's another one. I do most of my work on this one, and then I usually do the finishing and cosmetic work on that one. Here I have all my tools, well, all the tools that I use down here, and pretty much all the tools that I own and I have bought myself. Here I have a Fisker's axe, which is in the way. Then I have a few odd end tools right there. And then here are most of my woodworking tools. I have a hammer in there, 2 draw knives. This draw knife right here actually needs to be cleaned up. I just bought it. It needs to be cleaned up and handles put on it. Then I have a trimming saw, and this is probably my new favorite tool. It's a hand crank drill. Very nice. I only have one bit for it, so that kind of hinders what I can do with it. But you know, I made that bench over there with it, so it's pretty awesome. And I have a few other tools in there, which I'm not gonna go through because they don't really matter. All the tools that matter are the ones that I'm going to use for this build. Now, for this build, I'm going to be using, of course, my forge. I'm going to be shaping the blade with my forge and hammers, of course. Of course, I'll use probably 3 different hammers. Here's one of them. And here's another hanging up. There it is. Other than hammers, and of course pliers and things to hold the metal while I work on it, vice grips, blacksmith's best friend, or my best friend when I'm forging metal. Other than the pliers and the hammers and the forge, you will need, without a doubt, a file set, or possibly a sander or angle grinder you could use. But if you're going to do this by hand and really make it really pretty, you're going to want a good file set. And even some fine files like these. These are diamond files, and they come in really handy whenever you got some last minute tweaking to do, whenever you've hardened the metal and you can't really move much material with these normal files, so you'll have to use some diamond files. Now, once you've done your file work and all that, you will need something to sharpen your blade with. Now, here I have a Smith's 2-grit sharpening, or diamond stone blade. Here it has fine and coarse, so that comes in really handy. And then I have just a diamond stone, and I can't remember what brand it is, but I always carry one of these in my pocket anyway, along with my Leatherman wave, because it has a diamond sharpener as one of its features. Also, these come in really handy. I do believe this is a Smith brand as well, but a 3-sided, I believe it's Arkansas stones. medium, coarse, and fine. Very handy. Of course, you have to use oil with these because the rock just soaks it all up. And then another handy tool is, this is my, I don't know, either one of these are probably my finest sharpening tools. I have this steel right here, and then I have this, I can't remember what grit it is, but as far as the lists goes, it's a very, very fine grit, and that gets just a brutal razor sharp edge on knives. Now, this is the blank I'll be using. It's about, hold on just a second and I'll get the tape measure and show you. It is, hope you're not getting sick from all the camera movement. If you are, I'm sorry. It is about 8 foot long. That's a pretty big blade. A lot of my blades I make are this size. These are generally the size of blades that I use. Not too big. About 7 inches in my about 7 inches is usually the max that I'll go, unless I'm making a machete or a kukri or things which I'm going to use to really do some heavy chopping with. Pretty much a hatchet with a full blade on it are the larger knives that I make. But as far as the general size, these are what I normally make. That doesn't mean that this will be any different or harder to make. It just means, you know, to me, this is a little larger knife than I would carry for what I use knives for. As far as handle material for this knife, I have a large enough piece of antler to use for it. It just depends on how the blade comes out. And the way the blade looks, what type of handle I will use. It would either be made of deer antler, fiberglass, micarta, I guess you could call it, layered micarta, or and a micarta wrap, by the way, not scales, or of course a wooden handle, a hardwood handle, probably Osage orange, or maybe even hickory, just depends, or heartwood hickory. Oh, and another thing that if you're smart, you'll wear is gloves. And depending on if you're going to be using a forge or not, a thicker glove if you're a beginner. You always need that thicker glove because when you're a beginner, things may not look as hot as they are, and you'll touch them and you'll get burns everywhere. Now, these are all the tools that you'll need, and the next video will explain whether or not you should decide to use a forge, like the one I have here, or a belt sander, or a angle grinder, or just plain using nothing but files. This next video will describe why you will want to either use a forge or do the stock reduction method, which to me, I would prefer to use a forge. But I'll explain that in the next video. And that's it for now.